Hi there, Dan Pinkowski coming to you again. This will be the first video I'm making here. Did a little introduction video about what these videos are going to be about. This one is a little bit about the history of Hapkido, where it comes from. A lot of people have got some misconceptions. You know, there's a lot of, I hate to say it, a lot of Koreans like to rewrite history for their own benefit. I want to give the true history of Hapkido because a lot of people say, oh, it came from the mountains, it came from Korea from an ancient time, it came from Harang. Well, that's okay if you want to believe that, but it basically has its roots from Daitoru Aikijitsu. You know, here in China, the symbolism is the same as the Japanese symbolism. So when they see it, they go, oh, you do He Qi Dao. And that's how you say it in Chinese, He Qi Dao. And immediately they say, they think you're Japanese. So I have to say Hangul, means Korean, Aikido. So I say Hangul He Qi Dao. Oh, okay, and then they want to know what the difference is. Basically, the roots come from Daitoru Aikijitsu, which is one of the last of the samurai clans. This is the same roots that Ushiba came from. Now, Ushiba, when he was younger, he traveled all through Asia. He studied Swai Jiao, he studied all the different systems, but one of his big mentors that he studied a lot with was Sokyo Takeda. And Takeda was one of the last of the samurai individuals from that ruling house, and that was a samurai clan that went on for years. How this relates to Hapkido is Young Silche, when he was younger, living in Korea, the Japanese had a habit, especially businessmen, of taking and abducting other children from Korea or China and making them servants or adopted boys to work at their house. And there was a candy salesman, and he basically took young Silche at 9 years old and took him back to Japan. Fortunately, the boy kind of broke away from the businessman, and he was wandering the streets of Osaka in Japan, and the police found him and found out that he's not Japanese and that he's Korean and he's an orphan in Osaka, Japan. And so they put him in the local monastery, the Buddhist monasteries, and he stayed here for a while. And just so happened that the head monk there was very good friends with Sokyo Takeda, and young Silche became a very like Sokyo Takeda. In fact, the monk asked him what did he want to be when he grew up, and he pointed to the murals of the samurai. So they developed a relationship, and Sokyo Takeda took him in as an adopted son to work at his house, where he stayed and trained in Daitoru Aikijitsu up until the end of the war in 1945. After that, he went back to Korea, and there was a gentleman that was having a beer factory, and at that time he was a pig farmer, and he was getting the spent chaff from the production of the beer, and they would disperse it to the local farmers. And there was a fight that went on, and young Silche kind of wiped out a whole bunch of people. And not the owner of the beer factory, but his son, who was like 29 years old and was a big judo advocate, seen this, and he wanted the old man to come by. At that time, young Silche was about 47 years old, and he wanted him to come up, and he wanted to know what he knew, and he liked to learn it. And so the first group of students were students that already had martial art knowledge, and basically a lot of them were judo players. So Hapkido has a very strong root in judo, okay, because most of the original students were that. Over the years, you had other people that introduced Taekwondo and some other Korean martial arts that were already present and integrated them into Hapkido. That's where you get, Kuksuruan, you get Harang-do, you get all the different styles, because each individual basically had their own flavor. Now, I did this in Beijing to start my Beijing school. They had to have at least 10 years of some type of martial art training. We had guys that did judo, we had people Tai Chi, we had Wushu, we had Taekwondo. The guy that really stood out, and he's been my long-term student now, almost 10 years now, was named Clive Liu, and he runs a big school in Beijing. He also does Koya Kishinkai Karate Do. He's a 5th dan in that. He's only 1st dan in Hapkido. I need to get him promoted up to 2nd dan here real soon. And he also does Taekwondo, but he's pushed the Taekwondo to the side and is focused mostly on karate because Taekwondo has become more of a popular sport here in China. A lot of fake Taekwondo. You got people that are only 2-3 years of experience opening up schools because it's a moneymaker. It's a belt factory, and all the Chinese parents want to put their kids in these programs, and they pay high bucks. Actually, they are getting more money for teaching Taekwondo here in China than you are in America. The typical rate for learning Taekwondo here is about $1,300 US per year per student. And I know one school here has 17 schools, and each school has 300 students. So there's a big money-making belt factories here in China. Basically, that's a little bit about the Hapkido. It has its roots in Daido Ruai Jitsu. It's transformed over the years because as the base of Daido Ruai Jitsu came in, we had other people adding things to it. The original people, they didn't really have that much kicking in Hapkido. Jihan Jie is one of the people that really brought in the kicking aspect to it. And because, the ancient art of Taekwondo is in Korea, it was inevitable that kicking would become part of Hapkido, which it is now. Originally, I want to say they've made it into a sport, and they have tournaments now. They do how high can you jump over people, what's the distance you can jump. They do forms. In the beginning, there was no forms in Hapkido. They do sparring. They have rules. It's almost like Sanda here in China. You can kick and punch, kick to the head, kick to the body, no punching to the face. Grappling, you can throw down, you get points, and if you can execute a lock and maintain it for 3 seconds or more, you basically win the match. So they've done that, and also self-defense exhibition, how well you do your self-defense and also weapons forms. So they've really changed it a lot, but I want to emphasize this with Hapkido. Hap means coordinated together, ki means internal energy, do the way of integrating human energy, blending and in and out with using your opponent's energy against them. I wanted to make a big difference between sport martial art and self-defense martial art. Different mindset, 180 degree from each other. Do not get them confused because in a sport it is a given place, a given time, with a given opponent, with given rules. So you prepare for it, you know your opponent, you know what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, and there's limitations. Self-defense, it can happen anywhere, anytime, any situation. It can be outside, inside, in a restaurant, in a bar, in your car, in a bus, in a subway, walking on the street. It can be one against one against two, one against three. It can be your opponent has a weapon, has a knife, has a rock, has a stick, has a gun. It can be several things. So there is no rules. So basically we can use whatever we want. I mean, like I tell a lot of students, it's better to direct the individual's head into a wall than try to hit them with your hand, because your hand will hurt tomorrow morning and the wall will not. So you got to look at your environment, you got to look at situations, and the way I'm going to be teaching this is scenario driven. What scenario you're going to be doing and where are you going to be at and how to apply a self-defense technique to that given scenario. That is the Hapkido way that I've done. Matter of fact, Kwan Chik-hyun in Chicago, he's always said Hapkido, martial art, not martial sport. Very emphasized this in all of his students that it is a self-defense, not a sport. As a matter of fact, we never went to tournaments. We never went outside. In fact, you see some of the old, I think Rims Hapkido, they're in the northeast part of the United States. They don't go to tournaments, and they're pretty much closed. You know, they just work with themselves. You know, you look at Aikido. Aikido doesn't have some exhibitions, but they don't really have tournaments per se. Some of them have branched off to Tomiki Aikido, and a few other ones have kind of made it into kind of a competition. But you know, that's a little bit history about Hapkido. I had a chance to work with Warren Harris out of Jacksonville, Florida area. He basically came from Japan and trained there at the Hambu in Daido Aikijitsu, and we had several seminars to cross-reference techniques. A lot of the techniques were very similar, almost identical. Same methodology, same everything, because they came from the same roots. So again, a little bit basic about the Hapkido. I'm going to be going into the next video, and we'll be talking about beginning level and some of the things that are needed when you're teaching Hapkido. I'm going to be probably having about 2,000 of these videos as we go going. You know, nobody's really going to make an intensive video like I'm going to be doing here. So stay tuned, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and we'll see you on the flip side.